were you the last time you shat yourself? Well, for me, the answer is up Cliffhanger 2.0, and it was breaking a really expensive new truck, which is why, Case, we've come back here to potentially break 2 more very expensive new vehicles.
On the plus side, both of the vehicles we've brought are extremely capable. You are in a Bronco Everglades on 35s, and I'm in a GMC Canyon AT4X. Both of these have front and rear lockers, so they're pretty serious.
And both of these cost us around $56,000, so we're gonna find out what is what up Cliffhanger 2.0. Now, this is one of the steepest trails in our area. Instead of just zigzagging its way up the side of a mountain, it goes straight up the side of the mountain. So it's incredibly steep and pretty rocky, and also very loose. So it leads to a lot of underbody tapping, and then also sometimes some pretty serious wheel slipping.
Yeah, and it's also a very loose, dry, marbly stretch of trail, which means that the rocks underneath us are never going to stay where they were when we first drove up to them.
Ready need a locking diff. We've made it 18 feet up the trail. Come on, Bronco. That's the rear locker. How about front? Front and rear locker. Oh, there we go. Bit of some drama just getting up that first obstacle there. We're not even to the first obstacle. What are we talking about? We got Truth or Dare coming up here. Oh boy, is this Bronco gonna be able to do it? Let's see. Fingers crossed.
Now the trail looks a little different than it did when Tommy rolled up to it initially. I'm gonna do the same thing he did and approach it slowly, no momentum, and try no lockers. And so far, Canyon seems to be doing pretty well. So, not bad to begin with. Just a little bit of slip that I'm still hearing, but we're good. Tommy, I didn't even have to kick on my locker there.
What the heck?
I don't know.
I think you're just better at this. That's what we're learning.
I don't think that's how it works.
Just objectively better at this.
I wonder if I just picked a slightly different line. It's pretty narrow through there, though.
Yeah, there's not a lot I could do. So this is Truth and Dare. Now, I believe left is the hard side and right's the easy side.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been actually a couple of years since I've been up here, but we're going to take the Dare side. At least I am.
Yeah, I'm following you.
All right, and we'll see if either of these can make it on up. Now, this trail is unlike most that we do here in Colorado because it's not a shelf road and there's not a lot of articulation opportunities here. It's kind of flat, but just so steep. So we're already at 17, 18 degrees, and I'm trying this first in the Bronco unlocked. We've got these 35-inch tall territory tires kind of clawing their way up the surface, and I have aired on down. So hopefully that's enough to get us on up this hill. But the goal is not to take this with much momentum, because that's when you start damaging things. We're just gonna try to take this nice and slow in this Everglades Bronco. Now this is by far my favorite Bronco of them all. So this is a 2.3 liter Bronco, but it's got all of the stuff you'd want for regular off-road driving. So it's got the Sasquatch package with the big tires and the locking diffs. Come on, baby. Come on, dig. Come on, come on. That turbo's spooling up. We're really pushing it today. All right, that's as far as I made it with no locking diffs. Oh gosh. And all the dust has come in. So let's go ahead and do rear locker on. Let's see if we can make it past this rock with just the rear locker. Problem is I've lost all my momentum. Okay, let's go ahead and lock up the front here too. Nope, it's not gonna do it. Time to back it on down here. Once again, over 20 degrees. Pretty steep little section here, so a little bit of momentum. Front and rear locked up. Come on, baby, come on, let's dig. There we go. Oh gosh, making some kind of alarming noises. There we go. Come on, keep it up, keep it up. Got to keep the momentum going up this section. And just like that, oh, we made it through that shaly bit. That was pretty intense though, so you really get a sense of how steep it is out here. And we got to build up some turbo pressure and make her work for us, but ultimately we did get through that. It just took some digging. These tires, pretty good grip, but a lot of weight in this Bronco trying to drag me down the mountain.
So after watching Tommy go up that, get a good idea of how difficult this stretch of trail really is, partly because, again, everything is just so loose, it moves around under you and it's pretty easy to start digging a hole. And the Bronco is very capable. That's not a surprise to anybody. It's on 35s, we're on about 33s here. So I don't have quite as much tire, don't have quite as much clearance as Tommy does. But this Canyon AT4X is still very, very capable. There are some points that we've seen this truck run out of clearance a little bit more easily than that Bronco does. But traction on this truck, especially with both lockers engaged, is fantastic. And we are aired down on both this and the Bronco. That's helping a lot for traction partly, but also for comfort, which I'm thankful for because this Canyon is sprung a little stiff. Now, right around the same spot Tommy was getting some slip, we're clawing for traction here on the trail. But the Canyon is still making way, still progressing up the trail. This traction control system, even though I don't have my lockers engaged, still does pretty well. But we're struggling a little bit there. I can feel the brakes grabbing a lot, and I don't want to punish the brakes or my videographer too much by kicking up tons of sand. So that's rear locker engaged. And look, even just with traction control working, it does its thing. But it is really nice having that front locker as well. I haven't kicked on the front locker yet, but I can hear the brakes screaming a little. I'm gonna go ahead and kick on both the lockers and see what kind of difference this makes. Oh, night and day. Oh, front and rear lockers. I don't care how good your traction control is. There's no replacing how effective and how controlled any 4x4 with a front and rear locker is. That is just over the top. So Canyon doing really well. By contrast, the Canyon AT4X doesn't have nearly as many, I'm going to call them farkles. There's not quite as many accessories and things slapped onto the exterior. It's a very simple, smooth, pretty minimalist looking truck, but it gives you everything that you have to go tackle some difficult trails. For one, we've got great underbody protection and very accessible tow points that Tommy would be very happy to see are bright red, even though I would argue that the red accents on this truck clash a little bit with the pumpkin orange exterior. This is called Desert Sun, this color, and it's gotten some mixed reactions. We're on the fence depending on who in the office you ask about the color. But we've also got rock sliders, 33s, which is gonna limit us a little bit compared to the 35s on the Bronco. However, possibly my favorite thing about this truck versus the Bronco is that I'd argue the interior is nicer. Certainly as far as design goes, there's some fun colors, red accents, and it's black and white, so nice contrast, but I like the materials as well. It's a nice place to sit.
So this is a real hard part of the trail. It's actually probably the hardest part of the trail. So you got these big unforgiving rocks that are just ready to cheese grate the bottom of your rig, and it's off kilter, and it's at 25 degrees. It's really hard to tell on this trail how steep it is, but if you walk it, you fall a lot. No offense, Gavin. Poor guy's been all over. But Case, how high are we here?
8,800 feet.
8,800 feet. So it's not only steep, but it's also very high, which makes it interesting. This is such a wild trail because it's like nothing is planted in this sand. Everything moves and groans and shoots out the back every time you get onto the skinny pedal. And I'm taking it pretty easy, and it's just so loose. That's what happens when you're dealing with 20 degrees though. Even with lockers, there's only so much you can do. Come on, Bronco, on the skid plate there. That was a weird diff. Oh boy. Come on, baby, climb. Oh boy. Geez, this thing is struggling a little here. She's working hard. I could use some of those more cameras. Some of those other cameras that Case has in his rig would be kind of helpful here. I just have the backup camera. There we go. There we go. We got it. All right. Come on, Bronco. Let's do this. Let's keep it in one piece and get through this obstacle. Pretty nervous now. Fun fact, I took a girl on a date here once in college, up this mountain, thinking I'd impress her. She had a pretty bad time, I think. And then we broke up a couple months later, so probably couldn't have seen that one coming. So we got this bush here, which kind of limits my line options. Come on, Bronco, let's do this. Ooh, good. So that's where having that awesome clearance with the 35 really comes into play. Man, but it's just so steep and this Bronco's so heavy. There's not a lot I can do here necessarily. See if we can't bump it a little bit. There we go. Okay. God, this is a tough trail. Now, if you want to find this trail, check out Onyx Off-Road. It's called Knob Hill, and it's rated a blue trail. Onyx Off-Road shows you the ratings of all the coolest trails in your area, but in my opinion, this is quite a bit harder than your typical blue trail just because of the steepness. And once again, we're aired down in this Bronco, and there's just nothing I can do to really help with the traction other than a couple of diff locks and a little bit of skinny pedal. So let's talk about what we're working with now. I don't know how Case feels about this, but this Bronco does have a pretty badass raised air intake here that slithers its way up the A-pillar, part of the Everglades package. And you'll also notice waterfording up to this mark. We're talking like 36 inches of waterfording, and that's because they actually moved the diff and the transmission breathers, which is cool. What's not so cool is you can't actually buy the Everglades anymore because it was a really slow seller, apparently. It's expensive, right? And it has a small engine only, and it's pretty sparse on the inside, but it does have some of the best wheels fitted to the Bronco. Now, you can actually get these as an option across many other Bronco models, but that kind of 1552, almost like faux steely, is super cool. Now, coming along to the front here, modular front end with integrated bumper winch, which is cool. It does stick out a little bit beyond the front end of the Bronco. It does reduce some of the approach angle, but it's great having this from the factory, and it's a quality unit. It's a Warren winch, 10,000 pound rating, and a synthetic rope. And then of course underneath that you've got recovery points down here. Now the Bronco, as we know it, you know, independent front suspension, solid rear axle, but this vehicle has pretty much everything you need except for the sway bar disconnect, which I'm not sure would have helped us much out here today. Not a lot of articulated sections, but it does also have the full soft top, or hard top, with the roof rails, and then most importantly for today, it has a nice set of these little rock rails to keep you looking good after a nice day out on the trail.
Driving this trail is almost like driving through a kid's ball pit, because as soon as you get over top of some of these rocks, you just sink into them, and there's not a ton you can do. I heard Tommy's Bronco touching the underbody a little bit, and yeah, I'm gonna get some of the same. We've got good underbody protection, rock sliders, and everything that you want, but it is one of the limitations here of the Canyon on 33s, is that there's only so much clearance. Now, a little hung up, so I'm gonna back it up a little bit. So a little bit of speed. Oh, come on.
I think it's just under control. So go a little bit more driver on that.
Yeah, we're getting hung up here. So there is a very expensive, very much more expensive than this version of the Canyon that's on 35s. And the difference in clearance, with that truck is notable. Yeah, so since we're running out of clearance, we're gonna stack up a couple of these spots that I'm gonna blame Tommy digging into the trail here a little with his Bronco. You made the holes bigger.
Yeah.
Had I gone first, I would have just scampered up.
I'm sure about that, Case.
You ruined it. Definitely the biggest limitation here in this canyon is generally clearance. As far as rock crawling is concerned, we've had a couple obstacles and a few trails where we've had to stack some rocks, but we always end up getting through. Sometimes with just a little extra creativity. We're going up the feature that broke our truck one of the last times that we were up here, and we touched the underbody just a little bit, but front and rear lockers, once again, really good traction in the canyon, so that obstacle was not a problem.
So dude, as we kind of crawl our way toward the top of this, I will admit, we had to do a little bit of rock stacking for that GMC, but certainly part of it was because I kind of chewed up that trail before you came up.
Yeah, a little bit. There were definitely some holes dug into the trail. Again, it's just so soft and loose. It doesn't take much for you to start sinking into the ground.
So having done this a little bit, and you know, now spending some time behind that Canyon AT4X, what are some of your impressions on that thing?
There's a lot I love about this truck, especially selectable front and rear lockers. Anytime I know we're going off-road in a vehicle that's got that equipped, then I'm pretty happy. As we've found before, the limitation here is usually these 33s and the amount of clearance this truck has, but it's still really good. My other main complaint would be that the truck is sprung a little stiff.
So that thing's got those DSSVs on there, which is a really high-tech and expensive set of shocks, but I 100% agree with you. It's a pretty firm ride. Now maybe those really come alive in desert running, but up here it's pretty tough.
What's your feelings about the Bronco?
Well, it's funny. So last week you took this thing up here against the two-door Bronco, and I think you guys had a little bit of an easier time. And one might be because I'm a little timid on this trail and I haven't done it in a bunch of years because we've been broke a bunch of stuff. But B, I also think the trail conditions changed so much from time to time on this trail because the rocks are in constant flux. It's never exactly the same. So sometimes it gets harder, sometimes it gets a little harder, sometimes it gets way harder. It's all just kind of all over the board.
But as always, a Bronco on 35s is a tough thing to shrug off when you're on a trail. They're just so capable in pretty much any rock crawling situation.
Hell yeah, brother, that was awesome. I think we gotta park these things up and come up with a conclusion. For $55,000, what are we buying, the Ford or the GMC? All right, Kay, so you've driven the Bronco a bunch, now you've spent some time behind the wheel of the GMC Canyon AT4X. If I gave you like 56 grand, what dealership are you heading towards?
Is that an offer?
Well, man, I have to talk to Big Cheese about that one.
I would have to go for the Bronco, mostly because I love removable doors, removable top, and I like some of the extra features this has. 35s for one, which makes a big difference. That winch up front, it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, there's a lot you get on the Bronco. However, I might consider that Canyon because as cool and capable as the Bronco is, if you have a life outside of off-roading, the Canyon in some ways works better because you got the full usability of the bed, you got 6,000 pounds of towing capacity, right? So it's got a little bit more in its tool chest. But I think you're right, well, it was actually pretty equal in the performance. I wanted to say the Bronco did better, but I think with your exceptional driving skills and that orange paint, this thing got toward the sun.
That was the secret sauce. But let us know what you all think in the comments below. Which of the two would you spend your money on? That's all for this video.
OldTFL.com, we got more offer videos for you coming soon.